Three Friends, Episode 1. The morning sun peaked over the horizon, painting the sleepy town of Meadowbrook with soft hues of orange and gold. The air carried a cool crispness, a perfect blend of autumn and dawn. A chirping sparrow darted from branch to branch, the only sound in an otherwise quiet neighborhood. It was the kind of morning where everything felt possible, where old stories could begin anew. In a cozy suburban house at the edge of town, a man stretched and yawned, his bedhead defying gravity. He hadn't been home in years, and the familiarity of his childhood room felt oddly comforting. Posters of his favorite bands, faded with time, still adorned the walls. On his desk, a dusty trophy proclaimed him the winner of Meadowbrook High's science fair a decade ago. He smiled at the memory, but his thoughts quickly turned to the day ahead. "Today's the day," he muttered to himself, pulling open the curtains. The light flooded in, illuminating the room and washing over Amon's face. He grabbed his phone from the nightstand and checked the time. 7 a.m. Perfect. Across town, in a small apartment above a bustling bakery, Samir was already awake. His apartment smelled of fresh bread and coffee, courtesy of the bakery below. Samir, always the early bird, had spent the last hour perfecting his morning routine. A quick workout, a shower, and now the ritualistic brewing of his favorite Colombian blend. As he poured the coffee into his favorite mug, a chipped ceramic cup with the words "Best Boss" scrawled in bold letters. His phone buzzed on the counter. He picked it up and saw Aman's name flash on the screen. "Aman, ready for today?" Samir chuckled and typed back. "Samir, born ready. You bringing the snacks?" Meanwhile, in a modest farmhouse on the outskirts of town, Zara stood by her kitchen window, gazing out at the rolling fields. The farm had been her sanctuary for the past few years, a place where she'd found solace and rediscovered herself after the chaos of city life. Today, though, she felt a nervous energy she hadn't experienced in a while. Her two best friends were coming back into her life, and she wasn't sure what to expect. The kettle whistled, snapping her out of her thoughts. She poured hot water into a teapot, the aroma of chamomile filling the room. As she placed the teapot on the table, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Aman. "Aman, Zara, you better not flake on us." She smiled and replied. "Zara, wouldn't miss it for the world." By 10 a.m., the three friends were gathered at their old haunt, a charming, slightly dilapidated treehouse perched in a sprawling oak tree in the town's central park. Built with their own hands when they were teenagers, the treehouse had been their refuge, their fortress of imagination, and their planning ground for countless adventures. Aman was the first to arrive, a backpack slung over his shoulder. He looked up at the treehouse and grinned. "Still standing, huh? Guess we weren't that bad at carpentry." "Or the tree just has more patience than we do," Samir quipped, appearing behind him with two steaming cups of coffee in hand. He handed one to Aman. "I see you haven't given up your caffeine addiction," Aman teased, taking a sip. "Some things never change," Samir replied with a wink. Moments later, Zara arrived carrying a picnic basket. "All right, boys, what are we doing today? Climbing trees? Solving mysteries?" Or just reminiscing like old people? Depends, Aman said. What's in the basket? Zara rolled her eyes but couldn't suppress a smile. Sandwiches, fruit, and chocolate chip cookies. Made them this morning. Zara's cookies. It's officially a reunion, Samir declared. The three of them climbed up to the treehouse, careful on the creaking ladder, and settled in. The interior was just as they'd left it years ago. A makeshift table in the center, mismatched cushions scattered around, and their old adventure map pinned to one wall. The map was a collage of places they'd dreamed of visiting, complete with scribbled notes and doodles in the margins. I can't believe this place is still here, Zara said, running her fingers over the map. Remember when we swore we'd visit all these places together? Life happened, Aman said softly. But we're here now. For a while, they talked and laughed, sharing stories of their lives since they'd last seen each other. Aman had been working as a software engineer in the city. Samir had started his own business, and Zara had been managing the family farm. Their paths had diverged, but their bond remained intact. So, Zara said after a while, leaning back against the wall, what's the plan? Are we just catching up, or are we doing something epic? Epic, obviously, Samir said. Why else would we meet at the treehouse? A man reached into his backpack and pulled out a tattered notebook. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you our bucket list. The notebook was filled with pages of scribbled dreams and wild ideas they'd written as teenagers. Skydiving, camping under the stars, learning to surf, and even starting a band were among the many entries. I can't believe you still have this, Zara said, her eyes wide. Of course, Aman said. And I think it's about time we started crossing things off. Where do we start? Samir asked, leaning forward. Aman flipped through the pages and stopped at one. How about this? An overnight road trip to Bluebell Lake. It's only a few hours away, and the view is supposed to be amazing this time of year. I'm in, Samir said immediately. Me too, Zara added. But only if we're taking my truck. You guys would never survive in Aman's tiny car. Fair, Aman admitted. So it's settled. We leave at sunset. The rest of the day was spent planning their trip, reminiscing about old adventures and indulging in Zara's cookies. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, they packed up their things and climbed down from the treehouse, their excitement palpable. As they walked back to the parking lot, Samir turned to the others. You know, this feels like the start of something big. It does, Zara agreed. Like we're picking up, right where we left off. Aman smiled. Then let's make it count.